Professors have banned this book from their classrooms. Inmates have memorized it like scripture. CEOs keep it on their desks but never mention it in interviews. And when you type the title into Google, the very first suggestion is this book evil? The book is The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Over 4 million copies sold since 1998, translated into dozens of languages. Read by rappers, presidents, prisoners, and billionaires. But here's what nobody tells you about this book. It is not a manual for manipulation. It is a manual for seeing clearly. Because right now, today, whether you know it or not, people are using these laws on you. Your boss uses them in meetings. Advertisers use them to empty your wallet. Politicians use them to win your vote. People you trust use them in arguments, and most of the time, they have no idea they are doing it. So the question is not whether the game exists. The game exists. The question is, do you want to understand the rules? Or do you want to keep losing without knowing why? Robert Greene spent years studying 3,000 years of human history. Kings, generals, con artists, diplomats, emperors, and seducers. From Sun Tzu to Machiavelli. From Cleopatra to Henry Kissinger. And from those thousands of stories, he extracted 48 patterns. 48 laws that the most powerful people in history, good and evil, used to gain, maintain, and protect their power. Today we are covering every single law, all 48, in order, with the real stories behind them, the psychology that explains why they work, and the honest truth about when to use them and when to put them down. If you have been following this channel, you know we started with the inner game. Hill gave you the laws of wealth, Murphy gave you the subconscious engine, Byrne gave you visualization, Marcus Aurelius gave you the Stoic foundation. Today we step outside, into the world of people, into the arena where nice guys lose and strategists win. Not because the world is cruel, because the world is a game, and most people never learn the rules. Do not leave this video. The laws build on each other. And Law 48, the final law, is the one that changes everything. Let us begin. Law 1, never outshine the master. In 1661, Nicolas Fouquet was the finance minister of France under King Louis XIV. When the prime minister died, Fouquet saw his chance. He threw the most extravagant party France had ever seen at his chateau. Fireworks, feasts, entertainment beyond imagination. He thought it would impress the king. It destroyed him. The party was so grand that Louis felt overshadowed. 3 weeks later, Fouquet was arrested on false charges. He spent the last 20 years of his life in a prison cell in the Pyrenees Mountains. But Galileo played this law perfectly. When he discovered the moons of Jupiter, he did not just announce it. He dedicated the discovery to the Medici family, whose royal symbol happened to be Jupiter. The Medici saw his discovery as proof of their divine right to rule. In return, they made him their official court mathematician. 2 men. One ignored this law and lost everything. The other mastered it and thrived. Make your superiors feel superior. Let them take credit when it serves you. That is not weakness. That is intelligence. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. In the 9th century, Byzantine Emperor Michael III owed his life to a stable hand named Basil. A wild horse broke loose. Basil saved him. Grateful. Michael elevated Basil from nobody to co-emperor, but power changes people. One night, the same man who saved Michael's life had him murdered in his bed and seized the empire. Friends grow entitled. They feel they deserve more. And because they know your vulnerabilities, their betrayals cut deeper than any enemy's attack. Meanwhile, enemies have something to prove. A former rival who becomes your ally will work harder than any friend because they know the relationship is conditional. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Loyalty is a beautiful idea, but strategy keeps you alive. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. Otto von Bismarck wanted war with Austria, but the Prussian king opposed it, so Bismarck did something brilliant. He pretended to oppose war entirely. He praised Austria. He condemned military action. He bought time while secretly strengthening Prussia's army. When the moment was right, he struck. Prussia crushed Austria, and Bismarck unified Germany. If people know your next move, they can block it. The less they know, the more power you hold. Talk openly, but about the wrong things. Distract with false desires, flood them with irrelevant details. And while they chase illusions, you move in silence. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. King Louis XIV governed with 2 words. His most common response to any request was, "I shall see." That is it, 2 words. And those 2 words kept every person in his court guessing, hoping, and desperate. When you talk too much, you reveal too much. You dilute your ideas, you hand people ammunition they did not ask for. In a negotiation, the person who speaks first after the price is named loses. In an argument, the person who keeps talking is the person who is losing. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power held in reserve. Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Cesare Borgia did not just rely on military force. His greatest weapon was his reputation. His cruelty was legendary, and he made sure people believed he would stop at nothing. That image alone kept rivals at bay before they ever challenged him. Your reputation arrives before you walk into a room. Build it deliberately, protect it fiercely, and never let someone else define it for you. Because once your reputation cracks, every enemy you ever made will rush through the opening. Law 6. Court attention at all costs. Thomas Edison was not just an inventor, he was a showman. He staged public demonstrations, made bold predictions about robots and thinking machines, things he never planned to build. The public was hooked. Meanwhile, Nikola Tesla, arguably the more brilliant scientist, worked in obscurity. Tesla died penniless. Edison became a legend. In a world of infinite noise, invisibility is death. You do not have to be controversial. You have to be remarkable. Create something people cannot ignore, because attention is the raw material of power, and without it, nothing else matters. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Edison hired Tesla to improve his electrical generators, promising $50,000. When Tesla delivered, Edison laughed and said, "You do not understand American humor." Tesla quit. He went on to develop alternating current, a superior system, but Tesla focused on invention, not influence. He died with nothing. Edison built a legacy. The world does not reward the person who works hardest. It rewards the person who is seen. Shakespeare borrowed plots. Picasso copied techniques. Steve Jobs did not invent the personal computer. He took existing ideas and made them his own. The real genius is not the one who creates from scratch. It is the one who knows what to take and how to present it. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. In 1600, during Japan's greatest civil war, Tokugawa Ieyasu faced a powerful enemy. Instead of attacking first, he waited. He planted spies, spread false rumors, and bribed his enemy's allies. When his opponent finally launched an attack, his army was already weakened from within. Ieyasu crushed him at the Battle of Sekigahara and secured control of Japan. Powerful people do not chase, they attract. They set the stage and force others to play by their rules. The moment you react, you lose control. Instead, create temptation. Let them come to you, and when they arrive, they bring their vulnerability with them. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Even when you win an argument, you lose. The other person does not feel convinced. They feel humiliated, and humiliated people become enemies. Galileo understood this. Instead of debating the church, he built telescopes and invited powerful figures to see the evidence for themselves. He did not argue, he demonstrated. And once people saw the truth, they could not unsee it. Stop trying to prove you're right with words. Prove it with results. Actions persuade. Words create enemies. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Lola Montez was an Irish courtesan with a gift for enchanting powerful men and destroying them. King Ludwig of Bavaria fell under her spell, showered her with influence, and watched his kingdom crumble. Protests erupted. He lost his throne. He later admitted, "I was bewitched." Emotional states are contagious. Misery, negativity, chronic bad luck, these spread like disease. When you encounter someone whose life is a constant crisis, whose relationships always shatter, whose drama never ends, do not try to save them. You will only catch the infection. Instead, surround yourself with the fortunate, the calm, the ambitious. Their qualities will become yours. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Cardinal Richelieu quietly wove himself into every critical decision of King Louis XIII's reign. He handled foreign policy, crushed rebellions, and orchestrated military campaigns, all in the king's name. Louis wore the crown, but Richelieu ruled France. and the cardinal was careful. He never taught the king too much. The king remained dependent, unable to function without him. If people rely on you for their success, their security, or their decisions, they will never let you go. The key is to possess a skill, a knowledge, or a connection that no one else can easily replicate. Never make yourself completely replaceable, because the moment they realize they can function without you, you become disposable. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. For 10 years, the Greeks failed to conquer Troy. Every attack was repelled. Then they vanished. In their place stood a massive wooden horse, left as a supposed gift to the gods. The Trojans dragged it inside their walls, celebrating their victory. That night, Greek warriors hidden inside the horse crept out and opened the city gates. Troy fell in hours, not by force, by one well-placed act of apparent generosity. People are naturally suspicious, but one sincere gesture, one unexpected act of honesty, catches them completely off guard. Their defenses drop, and once trust is established, it creates a blind spot you can use again and again. But be careful. If someone sees through it, their disappointment turns to hatred. If you cannot make it convincing, do not attempt it. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy. Christopher Columbus pitched his voyage to every ruler in Europe. They all said no. Then he changed his approach with Queen Isabella of Spain. He stopped talking about exploration and started talking about gold, spices, and making Spain richer than Portugal. Isabella funded the voyage, not for Columbus, but because she saw an opportunity to make Spain the most powerful empire on earth. Nobody helps you out of kindness. That is not cynicism. That is human nature. When you need something, do not remind people of past favors. Do not appeal to their guilt. Show them how saying yes solves their problem, not yours. Self-interest is the strongest lever in human psychology. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Catherine de' Medici, Queen of France, built a secret network of spies. Her most effective informants were servants, maids, cooks, people who blended into the background, overhearing whispers, reading discarded letters. When nobles plotted against her, she knew before they could act. Knowledge is power. And the best intelligence comes not from hired informants, but from genuine observation. People love talking about themselves. Stay quiet, ask the right questions, and they will reveal everything. Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. Rome defeated Carthage twice and left the city standing. Carthage rebuilt. 50 years later, Rome had to fight a third war. This time, they burned Carthage to the ground, erased it from the map, and salted the earth so nothing would ever grow there again. A wounded enemy is more dangerous than a defeated one, because a wounded enemy remembers. They rebuild. They come back with a plan designed specifically to destroy you. When you move against a rival, commit fully. Half measures create permanent enemies, but there is a line between commitment and cruelty. You can win completely without destroying the human being. The law is about finishing the job, not about being merciless. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Napoleon returned from his Egyptian campaign and disappeared from public view. He let rumors spread. People wondered. When he finally re-emerged, it was with a dramatic coup. The public had idealized him so much that they welcomed him as a savior. The more available you are, the more ordinary you become. But when you withdraw at the right moment, you create demand. People feel your absence, they wonder about you, and when you return, your value has doubled. But timing matters. If you vanish too early, before you have established your presence, you do not increase your value. You just disappear. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. In the 1970s, Richard Nixon used the madman theory during the Vietnam War. He spread rumors of possible nuclear escalation, ordered massive bombings, and hinted that if peace talks stalled, things could spiral out of control. His enemies could not predict what he would do next. That uncertainty gave him leverage at the negotiating table. Humans crave patterns. When someone becomes unpredictable, it creates anxiety. They waste energy trying to figure you out. And while they are guessing, you are in control. Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Emperor Qin Shi Huang built the Great Wall and sealed himself inside a massive palace, paranoid about betrayal. Cut off from reality, he had no idea how much resentment was building outside his walls. By the time he realized it, it was too late. Fortress walls block threats, but they also block information, opportunity, and allies. Louis XIV understood this. Instead of hiding, he built Versailles and placed himself at the center of everything, where he could watch every noble, hear every whisper. For 50 years, no plot formed without him knowing first. Stay connected. A moving target is harder to hit. Law 19. Know who you are dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. After Lenin's death, Stalin rose to power with the help of Nikolai Bukharin. But Bukharin failed to see the danger. When the time was right, Stalin turned on him. Bukharin was arrested in 1936, executed in 1938. He never saw it coming. Not everyone reacts to offense the same way. Some people forgive. Others wait 10 years and destroy you when you least expect it. Greene describes 5 dangerous types. The arrogant man whose fragile ego turns a small insult into a lifelong vendetta. The insecure man who simmers slowly and undermines you from within. The paranoid man who sees enemies everywhere. The serpent with a long memory who smiles now and strikes years later. And the plain, unintelligent man who will not seek revenge but will waste your time and ruin your plans through sheer incompetence. Before you act, study the person in front of you. One wrong move against the wrong person can end everything. Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. Queen Elizabeth I played this game for decades. She entertained marriage proposals from every king in Europe without committing to any of them. Each suitor believed he was the frontrunner. Her uncommitted status gave her more political leverage than any alliance ever could. When you refuse to tie yourself down, you stay unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Bismarck would act clumsy, ramble, even pretend to be drunk in diplomatic meetings. His opponents dismissed him as harmless. Behind the scenes, he was planning every move with surgical precision. In 1866, he provoked Austria into a war they thought they would easily win. They walked right into his trap. Nobody likes feeling outsmarted, but if you make someone feel smarter than you, they drop their guard. They reveal information. They underestimate your ambition. And when they are busy feeling superior, you strike. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. When Mao Zedong faced certain defeat against Chiang Kai-shek in 1934, he did not fight a hopeless battle. He retreated. The Long March preserved his forces, built alliances, and strengthened his position. The nationalists wasted resources chasing him. By 1949, Mao had won. What looked like surrender was the setup for total victory. When you are weak, fighting for honor is suicide. Surrender buys you time. It lulls your enemy into complacency. And when they least expect it, you come back stronger. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. While dozens of small oil companies spread themselves thin, John D. Rockefeller focused everything on refining. He bought out competitors, consolidated power, and by the 1880s, Standard Oil controlled 90% of the US market. His success was not about doing everything. It was about doing one thing better than anyone alive. Stop spreading yourself across 10 goals. Pick one, go deep, master it, then expand from strength, not from mediocrity. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Napoleon did not inherit the role of conqueror. He constructed it deliberately. From the laurel wreath to the speeches to the memoirs he wrote in exile, every detail of his identity was crafted to make him unforgettable. Even after Waterloo, even from exile on a rock in the Atlantic, he was still shaping how the world would remember him. Your identity is not fixed. It is a choice. Do not accept the role that society, your family, or your past assigned to you. You can choose to be bolder, calmer, more strategic. Every day is a new performance. Be both the actor and the director. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. King Henry II of England clashed with Thomas Becket. One night, frustrated, Henry said, "Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest?" His knights took it as an order. They murdered Becket in Canterbury Cathedral. Henry denied involvement. He never explicitly gave the command. By keeping his hands clean, he avoided direct blame while benefiting from the result. When things go wrong, you need a scapegoat. Cesare Borgia hired a brutal enforcer named Ramiro de Orco to crush opposition. When resentment grew, Borgia publicly condemned him, staged his execution, and left his body in the town square. The people, once terrified of Borgia, saw him as their savior. That is the power of clean hands. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. People crave something bigger than themselves to believe in. They do not follow logic. They follow emotion. If you can position yourself as the leader of a cause, people will follow with blind devotion. Keep your message vague yet inspiring. Create rituals. Build a hierarchy. Establish an us versus them dynamic. Every successful brand, every political movement, every religion uses this formula. But understand, this law is a warning as much as a tool. Recognize it when it is being used on you. Law 28. Enter action with boldness. In 1519, Hernán Cortés landed in Mexico with a small force facing the mighty Aztec Empire. He ordered his men to burn their ships. No retreat, only victory or death. That act of boldness eliminated hesitation and inspired total commitment. Against all odds, they conquered. Hesitation infects everything you do. A bold move, even if imperfect, commands more respect than a cautious move made with doubt. Mistakes made through boldness can be corrected with more boldness. Mistakes made through hesitation rarely can. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. Hannibal Barca crossed the Alps with war elephants, crushed Roman armies, and won battle after battle. But he had no endgame. He expected Rome to surrender. They did not. They regrouped, outmaneuvered him, and Hannibal died a fugitive. Brilliant tactics. Zero strategy. Most people plan the first 3 steps and improvise the rest. That is why most people fail. Before you take the first step, you need to see the last one. What happens after you succeed? What happens when the competition responds? What happens when conditions change? The person who sees further down the road controls the road. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Harry Houdini rehearsed every escape hundreds of times until it was second nature to his audience. He seemed supernatural. But the moment people see you sweating, they stop seeing your brilliance. Castiglione called this sprezzatura, the art of making the difficult seem easy. Conceal your methods, hide the machinery, show only the magic. Law 31. Control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. In 1564, Ivan the Terrible suddenly left Moscow, claiming he could no longer rule. The city panicked. The people begged him to return. He agreed, but only if they accepted his absolute rule. Their choice was submit to Ivan or face the rebels alone. But in reality, there was never a real choice. Both options led exactly where Ivan wanted. The best deceptions make people think they have control when every option leads to your desired outcome. Frame the choices. Highlight the one you want. Make the alternatives look worse. People will feel like they decided freely. They did not. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. The Spanish conquistadors did not tell their soldiers, "This will be a brutal war, and many of you will die." They told them about gold beyond imagination and eternal glory, and it worked. Those men fought against impossible odds because they believed in a fantasy. Truth is ugly. People avoid it. They want to believe in instant transformation, magical escapes, and shortcuts that bypass hard work. If you understand what people want to believe, you can shape their actions, but never believe your own fantasy. That is how you lose. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. J. Edgar Hoover ran the FBI for decades, not because of his title, but because he knew everyone's secrets. Affairs, vices, past mistakes, all documented in files. Few dared to challenge him because he could destroy anyone's reputation with a phone call. Everyone has a weakness, an insecurity, a hidden craving, a fear they cannot control. Sigmund Freud said, "No mortal can keep a secret." If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips. Watch how people treat those beneath them. Notice what excites them, angers them, obsesses them. Find the thumbscrew and you have leverage. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. Before Julius Caesar ever held the title of emperor, he acted like one. He dressed with elegance, spoke with authority, and commanded his troops as if his rule were inevitable. By the time he actually rose to power, it felt natural, as if he had been destined for it all along. The world treats you exactly as you present yourself. If you act small, you stay small. If you carry yourself with quiet confidence, speak with precision, and move with purpose, people respond differently. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is pretending to be more than you are. Confidence is fully occupying who you actually are. Law 35. Master the art of timing. John D. Rockefeller did not become the richest man in history by acting impulsively. During economic downturns, when oil companies were desperate, Rockefeller struck. He bought them for a fraction of their worth. While others exhausted themselves reacting, he controlled time itself. He moved only when the move would have maximum impact. There are 3 types of time. Long time, the art of patience, building slowly. Force time, controlling your opponent's pace. And end time, the moment to strike with speed and finality. Master all 3, and you will always act at exactly the right moment. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. When Alexander the Great offered Diogenes anything he desired, Diogenes replied, "Yes, move out of my sunlight." The most powerful man in the world offered him everything, and Diogenes wanted nothing. The more you react to an insult, the more control you hand over. The more you chase something, the more power you give it. But when you act as if something does not exist, you strip it of all meaning. The less you respond, the more control you hold. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. Louis XIV turned Versailles into political theater. His famous rising ceremony had nobles competing for the honor of helping him get dressed. It sounds absurd. That was the genius. The spectacle was so captivating that the nobles did not realize they were the ones being controlled. People do not crave logic, they crave feeling. A well-crafted spectacle bypasses reason and speaks directly to emotion. Symbols, visuals, grand gestures, these stick in the mind longer than any argument ever could. Law 38. Think as you like but behave like others. Galileo was tried for heresy in 1633 for claiming the earth revolves around the sun. He had a choice: stand by his beliefs and risk execution, or publicly recant and survive. He chose survival. He conformed outwardly and continued his work privately. Openly challenging the status quo rarely earns admiration. More often, it earns punishment. Blend in publicly. Think freely privately. Share your real ideas only with those who can appreciate them. The most powerful people are those who fit in perfectly while secretly thinking differently from everyone else. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Before invading Austria in 1809, Napoleon deliberately sowed distrust among Austria's allies. They became disorganized, reactive, and easy to defeat. By stirring the waters, he forced his enemies into rash decisions. Anger makes people predictable. If you can make your opponent emotional while staying calm, you gain total control. They make mistakes, you exploit them. But master your own emotions first, because the moment you lose your composure, you become the fish. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. Louis XIV made the French nobility financially dependent on the court. He drained their resources with lavish expectations, then granted strategic favors. Gratitude replaced defiance. They felt indebted, not forced. Nothing in this world is truly free. Every gift creates a debt. Every favor creates an expectation. Pay full price and owe nothing. Strategic generosity, giving at the right moment to the right person, builds genuine influence. But accepting free things from the wrong people puts a leash around your neck. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. Louis XVI inherited the French throne in the shadow of Louis XIV, the Sun King. Instead of forging his own identity, he tried to maintain the same grandeur, but he lacked the personality, the force, the presence. He became a weak imitation of a legend. He lost his throne and his head. Do not try to be the next somebody. Be the first you. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple, he did not try to preserve the old company. He scrapped everything and rebuilt from scratch. Power is not about imitating the past. It is about creating the future. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. The FBI did not waste resources chasing every low-level criminal in Al Capone's empire. They took out Capone himself on tax evasion of all things. With the leader gone, the entire network collapsed. Every group has a source. One person who sets the tone, drives the decisions, creates the problems. Do not waste time on the followers. Neutralize the source, separate them from their base. Without supporters, even the strongest leader crumbles. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Napoleon created the Legion of Honor, rewarding bravery not just for generals, but for common soldiers. By making his men feel valued, he won their hearts. They did not fight because they had to, They fought because they wanted to. Fear makes people obey, but only temporarily. Fear breeds resentment, and resentment eventually explodes. Seduction is stronger than coercion. When people feel like they are acting from their own free will, their commitment runs deeper than any threat could produce. Understand what drives people. Tap into their desires, their fears, their need for recognition. Win their hearts and their loyalty follows. Meanwhile, Marie Antoinette ignored the starving masses, threw extravagant parties, and dismissed the revolution as something that would pass. By the time she realized her mistake, the guillotine was waiting. If you lose touch with the people around you, if you forget to read their emotions and respond to their needs, no amount of power will save you. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union each mirrored the other's nuclear buildup. If one deployed missiles, the other responded in kind. This mirroring kept both sides in check for decades. When you mirror someone, copying their actions or reflecting their behavior back at them, you disorient them. They cannot predict your next move, and that confusion gives you control. 4 forms. The neutralizing mirror, copying their strategy so they cannot anticipate yours. The narcissist mirror, reflecting someone's values so they trust you. The moral mirror, making someone experience their own bad behavior. And the hallucinatory mirror, creating an illusion so convincing they cannot tell what is real. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Tsar Alexander II freed the serfs in 1861. It was supposed to modernize Russia. Instead, it sparked chaos. Landowners resisted. Peasants were unprepared. Radicals said it was not enough. Conservatives said it was too much. Alexander was assassinated. People say they want change. But when change arrives too fast, they panic. They fight it. They cling to the familiar. If you want to transform something, disguise the revolution as evolution. Keep old symbols. Introduce new ideas in small steps. Make people feel like they are progressing, not losing. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Marie Antoinette's lavish lifestyle did not inspire admiration. It inspired envy. And envy is far more dangerous than admiration, because envy festers in silence. The moment people see you as superior, they start comparing themselves to you. When they fall short, they do not blame themselves. They blame you. Abraham Lincoln understood this. He used self-deprecating humor constantly. He joked about his appearance, his background, his lack of sophistication. It made him approachable. It diffused the envy that could have turned allies into enemies. Perfection is suspicious. Humanity is magnetic. Show small flaws. Admit harmless weaknesses. Let people feel they are not so far beneath you. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. In 1812, Napoleon stood at the height of his power. He had conquered most of Europe, but it was not enough. He invaded Russia with 600,000 troops. The brutal winter and scorched earth tactics destroyed his army. His reign began to crumble. His downfall was not caused by failure. It was caused by a victory that made him reckless. Success is intoxicating. It clouds judgment. It tempts you to keep pushing past your original goal. Set a target, hit it, stop, celebrate quietly. Then plan the next move from a position of earned confidence, not unchecked momentum. Law 48. Assume formlessness. This is Greene's final law, and it may be the most important idea in the entire book. Bruce Lee said, "Be water, my friend. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Put it into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. Water can flow, or it can crash. Everything rigid breaks. Everything fixed becomes a target. The empires that lasted longest were the ones that adapted. The leaders who survived were the ones who refused to be pinned down. When IBM dominated computing, they clung to mainframes. Personal computers emerged, and IBM resisted the shift. Microsoft and Apple rose in their place. By the time IBM adapted, it had lost everything. Do not become predictable. Do not cling to one strategy, one identity, one way of doing things. The world changes constantly. The person who clings to what worked yesterday will be overtaken by someone more adaptable tomorrow. Formlessness is the ultimate power principle. Not strength, adaptability. Not rigidity, fluidity. Not one fixed identity. The ability to become whatever the moment demands. Now, I need to be honest with you about something. This book presents a world where almost every interaction is a chess match. And sometimes, that is true. In corporate politics, in competitive markets, in negotiations where real stakes are on the table, these laws apply directly. But not every relationship is a game. Not every friend is a potential enemy. Not every conversation is a strategic maneuver. Not every person in your life needs to be managed. The 48 Laws of Power is the most useful book ever written for understanding how the world works between people, and the most dangerous book ever written for someone who applies it to everyone, everywhere, all the time. If you use these laws on your business rivals, you will win. If you use them on your spouse, your children, your closest friends, you will become very powerful and very alone. The real mastery is knowing when to play the game and when to put the game down. In negotiation rooms, play, at the dinner table with the people you love. Be real, be vulnerable, be human. Power without connection is a prison, and the people who master every law but never learn to turn them off end up more isolated than the people who never opened the book. So let us pull everything together. 5 episodes. 5 books, 1 complete system. Hill gave you the 13 Laws of Wealth, the inner architecture. Murphy gave you the 5 techniques for reprogramming your subconscious. The engine. Byrne gave you emotional visualization corrected by real science. The amplifier. Marcus Aurelius gave you the dichotomy of control, the obstacle as the path, and the awareness that life is short. The unshakable foundation. And Greene gives you the 48 laws of how power actually works between human beings. The armor, inner game and outer game, mind and world, thought and action. You need all 5. Here's your action for tonight. Think about one situation in your life right now where a power dynamic is working against you. A boss who makes you feel small. A colleague who takes credit for your work. A friend who always controls every conversation. A family member who uses guilt like a weapon. Pick one. Now ask yourself 3 questions. Which of the 48 laws are they using on you, consciously or not? Which law could you use to change the dynamic? And is this a situation where the game is appropriate? Or is this a relationship where you need to put the book down and have an honest conversation instead? Write your answers down, because the difference between someone who reads about power and someone who understands power is this. The person who understands it knows when to use it and when to walk away. That is mastery, not of other people, of yourself. Robert Greene spent years studying 3,000 years of human history and distilled it into 48 laws. You just learned every single one. Now the question is the same one it has always been. Will you use them? Will you see the games being played around you? Will you protect yourself from the people who use these laws against you every single day without you even knowing? Or will you close this video and walk into the same rooms with the same blindness? If you made it here, you already know the answer. The people who quit 40 minutes ago. You are still here. And that tells me everything I need to know about where you're going. This has been Minds of Mastery. If one law hit you harder than the rest, drop the number in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe if you want to keep building. Because next week, we go inside one of the oldest and most powerful philosophical texts ever written. A private journal by a Roman emperor who ruled the greatest empire on earth while battling war, plague, betrayal, and his own mind. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I will see you there. Until then, build the mind you were meant to have.